Today, we're resurrecting an old conversation, albeit through a slightly different lens. I'm asking the question, in Flesh and Blood, what exactly constitutes a product? Now, that may initially seem like a silly question, but I assure you, my friends, it's actually not. And the reason it's not is a long-standing guideline for card legality. New cards become legal for official tournament play on the release date of the product they are from. So, clear enough on the surface, right? But as we get more and more different avenues by which unique cards are being introduced, gem packs, welcome decks, convention exclusives, tournament exclusives, and so on, the lines of what a product is have become blurred, to say the least. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Flesh and Blood is entering its 6th year, and in that time, methods of product releases have become broader and more diverse. No longer is it simply 3 booster sets per year, but now we have armory decks and other supplemental products like First Strike, Round the Table, Mastery and Archive packs, and due this summer, Smash Palace, all while expanding event and convention support as well as the introduction of gem packs. And with this expanding landscape, the definition of a product, and by proxy card legality, has become much less straightforward. In the world of Flesh and Blood, a card existing in physical form does not automatically mean that the card is legal for tournament play. There are certain cards that are just for fun, and in general are those intended for lore or for social play. These are referred to as special use cards, and in general, they're either silly or UPF focused. And more importantly, special use cards are not legal for official tournament play outside of the UPF format. A recent example is the prize kit from Skirmish Season 9, which included both Lightning form and Earth form as rainbow foil full arts, available as participation prizes. Even though players had these cards in their hands as early as August 24th, the cards were not legal to be played until Rosetta's release on September 20th, just shy of a month later. And the reason this was the case? The card legality policy is very clear, in that cards become legal for official tournament play on the release date of the product they are from. It's a very clear statement, simple, straightforward, and all-encompassing. However, as of late, this policy has been straightforward only in words and not in implementation, because in the last year or so, this line has become increasingly blurred. In an October 2024 video, I first spoke about how the introductions of both Blaze and Adult Ira had thrown a non-Mechanologist wrench into the situation. In the May 15, 2024 article announcing Blaze Firemind, it very clearly stated that she would become legal on May 31st of that year, concurrent with her release at the UK Games Expo. As such, there is zero debate as to Blaze's actual legality. But how is such a card comprehended within the current card legality policy? Is Blaze, in effect, her own product? And then, later that same year, another anomaly, Ira, Scarlet Revenger. In the September 8th, 2024 article announcing the 5th anniversary celebrations globally and the 5th anniversary pack to be released at Worlds in Japan, it was outlined that Ira would become tournament legal on November 2nd. Now, considering that Ira was released in a booster pack, kinda of sorts, using that term loosely here, because by that I simply mean a wrapped product containing cards, I suppose that it can be argued that it was a product. I suppose, maybe. So that begs the question, is something like the 5th anniversary pack considered to be a product? And in that vein, what exactly is a product, as per the definition of the card legality policy within the world of Flesh and Blood? The Ira Welcome Deck, one of the very first Flesh and Blood items, had an SKU, number Fab 18001, if you were curious. Yet, many cards from the Ira deck at the time were not tournament legal. The ones printed in WTR in the Katsu deck, looking at you, Lunging Press, were legal right away. But the rest, even big deal cards like Flying Kick and Torrent to Tempo, weren't legal until their printing the next summer in Crucible of War. So, aside from just being a fun history lesson, this teaches us that, by precedent, a welcome deck is not considered to be a product. As a quick aside, the recently announced Welcome Deck Bravo has since been changed to Demo Deck Bravo, so it may or may not follow suit. And that brings us then to the Ira 5th Anniversary Pack, which, to my knowledge, did not have a SKU, but was still very much legal. So by those two data points, skew is irrelevant, which Blaze already confirmed, I suppose, but still, having real data is good. Now in most cases, it's very clear when something is considered to be a product. Booster type releases, whether as an expansion set, a supplemental set, or something like an archive or mastery set, is very clearly a product. Cards that debut in such a set become legal on that set's official release date. Ancillary supporting releases like Armory decks, Classic Battles, and Round the Table are also very clearly products. New cards released within these products become legal for play on their official release. This has been very consistent across the relatively new Armory deck product line. The deck becomes available on a given Friday, and so thus are any new cards contained within. We also had a similar situation with the First Strike decks. While the decks themselves were released at Gen Con 2024 on August 1st, which defined the tournament legal date as being ahead of the technical global release of August 23rd. Conceptually, it was also clear that this served as a product within the definition of the card legality policy. Conversely though, event support kits such as the previous Armory kits as well as Skirmish, RTN, PQ prizing kits are very clearly, at least historically, not products. The June 2023 Armory kit contained Flail of Agony and Phantom Banshee, meaning that players had these cards in their hands, but could not use them until Dusk Till Dawn's actual release date on July 14th. Likewise, an all-new hero, Yoji, appeared in the October 2022 Armory kit. But even as a hero, Yoji was not legal for Blitz tournament play until Dynasty's official release on November 11th. Now as for gem packs, which are serving as the backfill for Armory event support, the jury remains out on that one. While we of course haven't seen any unique game pieces printed in gem packs yet, the product is still very young. And in the case that a game piece unique card is released in the gem pack line, which is absolutely a possibility, would that thus count as a product for the purpose of legality of that card? And before you smash the keyboard with your response on gem packs, I'd like to point out how muddy the situation is already, because from a product standpoint, there is significant contradiction around the new Temper helmets. Helm of the Arknight and Halo of Lumina Light are contained as mechanically new cards within the upcoming Armory Deck Legends product line that will release at San Diego Comic-Con and then also be available at Gen Con this summer. Although those helms are contained within the Armory decks that release at the summer conventions, they however won't be tournament legal until September 26th and the release of Gem Pack 3. And in this case, it's murky, right? We've clearly shown that Armory decks are a product, and yet the cards in there won't be legal, and then by the legality date of those cards, it then also implies that gem packs are products. Or again, does it? Certainly, understanding what is legal, and perhaps more relevant when they are legal, is becoming increasingly difficult for us. And I believe this has come to a head and has reached the point where action needs to be taken, based on the decisions made about card legality coming out of ProQuest Singapore season. The prize kit for ProQuest Singapore contained 4 mechanically new cards: Draw a Crowd, Promising Terrain, Batter to a Pulp, and the all-new adult hero Valda Seismic Impact. And this particular situation is really a complete amalgamation of contradictions. Fun fact, by the way, the actual PQ Singapore page doesn't include any info about legality of these cards, and simply the image shown here. Yet, this image here, which I honestly have no idea where it came from, was flying around Twitter, defining with an asterisk card legality dates. How a normal person is supposed to be able to keep track of all the various sources, I have no idea, but at least in theory, the date published did exist somewhere. But regardless of that, thankfully, on May 11th, it was clarified via a post on the Judge Discord by none other than Joshua Scott himself that all cards from the PQ Singapore kit would go legal on June 6, 2025. And while it's great to have formal information, it doesn't remove the contradiction here in terms of the card legality policy. In the London keynote, James mentioned that Batter to a Pulp would not be within Mastery Pack Guardian. And while that doesn't of course preclude it from being in another product, for now, that makes it mechanically unique, and thus would need its own legality date. Perfectly clear there. For Draw a Crowd and Promising Terrain, to my knowledge, we don't know yet if they're in Mastery Garden or Smash Palace, although it is fair to assume that they are. But Valda Seismic Impact is the largest point of confusion on this case, because we know for a fact that she is in Mastery Pack Guardian. As shown here, she's on the back of the booster box, and is a poster child for that set. So why exactly is Valda legal on June 6th? It doesn't really track with historical precedent, nor with the current card legality policy. And on top of all that, regardless of how you may personally feel about this issue, the fact that the lead judge for all the game felt the need to clarify this for the community proves that there was at least significant confusion around this. And the reason for that confusion is pretty reasonable. As I've outlined here today, despite having a clear and straightforward policy, it isn't being followed. And perhaps even a larger and more important part of this than the policy itself is just how disjointed all of this is. Today, we require the player base at large to have to track down articles, keynote presentations, Discord posts, screenshots on Twitter, or whatever other source this stuff comes from. This is not only ineffective, but it's not fair, and it's certainly not friendly to the average player. Now, a fun part about today's video will be how some Fab fan kids out there will argue that I'm being overly pedantic and provide the various reasons why this is an unnecessary conversation to have. So yeah, I guess that's my bad that I think it would be wise to have clear and consistent rules within a card game of all things. But whether you care about the card legality discussion or not, I'm positive that we can all agree that having a posted policy, a guiding principle that isn't being adhered to, is a big problem. However, we've been talking about this for well over a year now. Again, in October, I called for the policy to be updated or clarified. And while it remains quite surprising to me that LSS hasn't yet done anything about it, apparently they don't feel anything needs done. So instead, let me change my request. The Flesh and Blood card database has been live for a while now, a pretty slick little interface that serves both as the repository and as a one-stop shop for all cards within the game. When you look up a card, such as in this case, Valda Seismic Impact, it gives images of the card, lists where it was printed, as well as its printed and true text. My recommendation is that LSS utilizes the card database to also outline card legality. It's pretty simple, really. Add another line here, somewhere on this page, stating when the card was or will be legal, and I'll even take it one step farther to that point and have it state which formats the card is legal in. And with that, you'd have an actual one-stop shop, a single official source that outlines the day that a card became legal and what it's legal in. No more perusing the internet, no more expecting that Fab players investigate all possible sources of online content. A single, reliable, and consistent source for information. So that's it for me today, folks. A simple recommendation that I feel would make things a heck of a lot easier for us as the game continues to grow and continues to move forward. Let me know if you agree, what your thoughts are. If nothing else, my friends, go Commando.